Can I ask you about? Do you still talk to Colby Covington?
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
What's going on with him? Is he going to fight Hamzat? Is he?
Hamzat is going up to middleweight. The word on the street
is. That's right. Is that confirmed, by the way? Do you have that confirmed?
Okay. But the word on the street.
Because I'm hearing the same rumors. Yeah. That's been the talk, is get Colby and Chimaev together.
Two best wrestlers.
That's right. And I will just share with you, yes, that Colby will do that fight. But it's got to be a #1 contendership. And that has been something that's very unclear, where they just can't promise him that. With the thought that if Kamaru Usman regains the championship, putting Colby against Kamaru a third time, they just can't commit to it. And Colby's like, look, if you want me to fight, anybody else fights Chimaev and beats him, they got to be a fight for the title. You got to give me the same thing, or call somebody else. And he's not wrong to say that. I mean,
right.
to sweeten that pot just a little bit, yeah. He does deserve it. He is the clearest #1 contender that there is. But there's more to the story. He's had a couple of cracks at it. But
he's a big draw, too.
Yeah. You can't do Covington Usman 3.
I don't think so.
No, but you could do Leon Edwards Covington.
Sure.
Well, yeah, of course. You
should do
and they've
Leon
already
Edwards.
scheduled that.
Sure.
That's happening in London.
Oh.
Yeah, it's for sure. I mean, it wasn't. It was a question mark whether Usman could fight, because I believe he had a surgery on his hand.
Yeah, on his hand.
But he's apparently recovered, and they're scheduled, and they're fighting in London, which is great. But yeah, you can't do Covington Usman 3. Like Covington Hamzat, God, that would be great.
Sure.
Especially with Covington calling him. I don't even want to get on YouTube. I mean, that's got to be the funniest.
But you see where that'd be frustrating. If Colby goes and fights Chimaev, it's going to be very obvious that if Chimaev wins, he gets to fight for the belt. So Colby's going, but I got to have the same thing.
Yeah.
And you see what the problem is. I think you hit it on the head, which is, hey, you've already tried twice. We're just not going to do a #3. I think everybody here understands where everybody else is coming from.
Is there a dollar amount that it makes sense to where it's like, all right, I won't fight for the title if you offer me?
Yes. I'll tell you this. There would have been an argument if Covington Usman 2 was a closer match than Covington Usman 1.
Sure.
But it was not. The first one was a very close match. The second one was not close at all. So that really ruins a 3, and you can't even do a 3 anyway when it's not a rubber match.
Yeah,
I agree with that. When it's not a true trilogy where you flip them. Yeah.
Well, can you say that Usman does now have that? You know, his chin's not so strong, and it's a different story after a fighter gets knocked out like that.
There's an argument there that no great promoter is ever going to make.
Right. Yeah.
My champion's got a compromised chin, folks.
Right, sure.
Everybody line up and buy your tickets now.
Yeah. I hear your point, though. It just seems as though, and I do hope that Chimaev goes to 185. I just think that's the right move. His life in general will be better. You know, trying to beat that scale. Yeah. That'll end careers. People really don't realize that, what goes into beating that scale the day before. But I mean, that is where the longevity of your career starts to diminish.
Yeah.
Back to Colby Covington.
Yeah.
I love Colby, dude. I think he's fantastic.
I've said this so often that I'm just so invested in disliking him.
Sure.
He's just he's masterful at making you dislike him. And like with Jake Paul, within anybody who's in this digital age, it doesn't matter if it's positive attention or negative attention. It's just attention is the most valuable commodity known to man. Colby Covington is masterful at getting attention, albeit very negative attention. You being the original trash talker guy, you know, like you were the first, like. Right? I mean, was there a prolific trash talker in MMA before you?
No.
That was an art that you brought over from wrestling almost.
For sure. Yeah.
And since you, like, clearly McGregor was became the prolific trash talker. And then there's Colby. I mean, again, it's effective. I'll never miss a Colby Covington.
Sure.
I mean, I'll never miss any fight. I'm addicted to the sport. But what are your thoughts just about trash talk in general? Like,
well. Yeah, and I have my own views on it. But I had a code, and I stuck fiercely to the code. I was called by Sports Illustrated the biggest SHIT talker in all of sport. But I had never used a 4-letter word. Never. You'll never find anything public, written, or audio. I've never used profanity, and that was one of the things I would never went after anybody unless they were in front of me. If I ever did go after somebody, I would always show up, whether I felt good or not. I would I would go to that ring and answer for it. So I mean, I had my own little code, and I had 2 different jurisdictions threaten to not give me a license. I had a guy named Kaiser out of Nevada who said that that I am not an example for little kids.
Wow.
And I was really thinking, I'm going, Keith, I've never used a bad word. Like, you've got, what are you talking about? But yes, because of my trash talking, and I only say it because it wasn't all that bad. It was the first. It was way ahead of the time for its time, and it did catch people off guard. And it was just a meaningfully a difference opinion. A lot of people thought that respect was about bowing to someone's face and putting a knife in their back when they turned around. I will tell you to your face, I'm going to put a knife in your back when you turn around. And there's a big difference in that. You think that one's honorable, but I thought mine was more honorable. So, you know, you reach for yours and I'll reach for mine, and let's see who's fastest. But there's no sense in hiding this. And, I appreciate that about Colby. I know that his is a little bit different, and he is a little bit rougher at times, but I do appreciate that he can take the boos. And if you're a heel, if you're the bad guy, boos are a heel's cheers. And you don't have very many heels because they can't take the boos. They say they want it, they want the checks, they want the placement on the card, but they can't take the heat. They just can't. They can't take it in their real life. You know, these are, I'm a tough guy. They're not all that tough. They're really sensitive. And Colby's able to take. He's able to take the hits. And someday he will be looked back on, and people will appreciate what he did. But for right now, it's probably a pretty lonely path.
Man, that's so rad. That's so well said. Man.
Well, it's kind of like when we had Ronda Rousey on the podcast. It made headlines. And it was negative headlines, and then we called her like, "Fuck, is that?" And she's like, "Dude, are you kidding me? I love this shit. I'm the heel.
Sure.
Like, the more the merrier.
Yeah. Sure.
You know." And it was like a different perspective. Like, oh fuck, like there's levels to that.
I remember that well. I was like, oh man, gosh.
I didn't want to bum her out.
Did this backfire on you and shit.
And she's like, "Are you kidding me? I'm fucking gardening, making headlines."
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. So what's next for Chael Sonnen?
Governor
can I throw, soon to be, can I throw one at you guys that Conor McGregor, I am a bit of an advocate for Conor. I feel like I'm in a big brother role where he goes and does something and I have to come and explain it to the audience. But he took such a bad rap in his last fight. Just to remind you guys, he breaks his leg.
Right there.
Yeah, he's down on the canvas. Joe Rogan's down, interviewing him, and Conor's yelling about, the wife slipping in my DMs. So people tell what a jerk he was and what a bad guy. And I said, okay, maybe that's what you saw. Or maybe you just saw a performer so committed to entertainment that even broken in half before they faded to black and rolled the credits, he gave you everything that you tuned in for and more. You might not understand where the real masters are at work here. And, if you don't see that, you want to boo a guy, you want to hate a guy, go ahead. But there's also something that I think that you should appreciate. I don't know which one it was. Maybe Conor was showing us the real him, and maybe he's a real jerk, but maybe he's not. And maybe he was so committed to the performance that he played it until the ship went down. And I think that should be considered. Because I hear Ron, and I know people like to say the right things. Ron is at home crying herself to sleep. None of that stuff's real. You just try to let her know, Rhonda, these are good things. These are positive and good things. And every now and then you'll get her to come and repeat it. Well, I created an emotion, and that's good. It's like, no, but it really is. F them if they're booing. It doesn't matter. If they like you or they don't like you is good. If they're indifferent for you, you have a problem. And I know that some of the heels can come out and repeat that, but they don't actually mean it. They're at home crying in a bottle of wine, and that's much more the real Rhonda. The real masters of their craft are the ones like Colby that'll sit there with a broken leg and finish this thing out.
A broken jaw.
Yeah.
Well, are there rules to being the heel? Because people were like, you don't say anything about his wife, or then Kobe and Jorge Masvidal, he brought up the kids, or
you gotta call
is
him
it
George around Chael?
George? Is there?
Does he go by Jorge? Is it Jorge officially? Is it? Because I want to be right. Is it Jorge? I'll switch to Jorge.
But are there rules that you should stay in, or is it all? No holds barred when it comes to trash talking?
I just think whatever. I think if you're going to be an anti-hero, one of the things that all great anti-heroes will have is they will have a code. It won't be society's codes. It won't be laws. It won't be a normal person's code, but it will be a code, and they will fiercely adhere to the code. Now, this is the art of the bad guy. Not very many people are good bad guys, and this includes in Hollywood. Not very many people are good at being a bad guy. But if you're going to be a good bad guy, you've got to have a code. You've got to advertise to the audience what it is, and you must fiercely adhere to it no matter what. You must defend it with an honor. That's the kind of guy, that's the kind of a heel that the crowd will get behind. To be a cool heel is the most guaranteed monetizable box office that you can have. That would be The Rock. That would be Stone Cold Steve Austin, by example. To be a bad guy and be a cool bad guy. And most don't understand that because they never lay out what their code is. And if you've got a code and you're a bad guy, so you're telling society, I don't need to follow your rules. Here's a better set of rules. You've got to advertise what it is. And if you go off script, and at no point in there was going after a kid's family or his children, if that wasn't part of your code, then you've broken your own rules. And now you're not just you're not a bad guy. You're a bad guy, and there's a difference.
Do you like shopping on Amazon? I do. And good news is, Steve-O's butt wipes for your butthole are available on Amazon. And if you want a real bundle of a deal, you can get Steve-O's hot sauce for your butthole, plus Steve-O's butthole destroyer, and Steve-O's butt wipes for your butthole. It's the butthole bundle, available on Amazon right now.
Yeah, dude.